Fat girl was forced to fight wild animals for sport. Mountain man killed the beast and said, "Fight me." Instead, the crowd roared like thunder inside the forest coliseum. Torches hissed in the night air, their flames casting a cruel glow across the blood-stained arena. "Release the bear!" Baron Victor shouted from his velvet seat above, his voice dripping with amusement. The heavy gates groaned open, and a massive brown bear lumbered out, claws scraping against stone, teeth glistening with hunger. Across from the beast stood Ophelia Grimwald, known to the crowd as the Fat Sow. She was 36 years old, her body heavy and trembling, her eyes wide with terror. Her so-called weapon? A dull sword barely sharper than a kitchen knife. A splintered wooden shield hung from her arm, so weak it might not even stop a dog's bite. "Fight, pig!" someone screamed from the stands. The words were followed by laughter, the sound stabbing sharper than the bear's claws. Ophelia dropped to her knees, tears streaking her dirt-smeared cheeks. "Please," she cried, voice breaking, "I don't know how to fight. I will die." "That's the point," Baron Victor sneered, raising a goblet of wine. "Watch her squeal before the beast." The bear rose on its hind legs, towering, bellowing a roar that shook the very earth. Ophelia squeezed her eyes shut, bracing for death. Then another roar thundered through the arena, not from the bear. "Enough!" The voice rolled like a storm across the Colosseum. Every head snapped toward the stands. A giant figure leapt down from 20 feet above, landing in the dust between Ophelia and the beast. The ground shook beneath him. Titan Beastmaster, 3 meters tall, silver-haired, eyes burning like lightning, stood between woman and monster. "You want blood?" he bellowed, chest rising like a mountain. "Then fight me." The Colosseum had been built deep in the woods outside Deadwood, hidden from the law yet fueled by the gold of the corrupt. Here, noblemen and outlaws alike gathered for one purpose: entertainment through cruelty. They called it sport, but it was nothing more than bloodlust given stage and crown. And tonight's victim was Ophelia Grimwald. Ophelia had not always been a spectacle for rich men's amusement. Once, she had been the daughter of a baker in Kansas City. She had grown up surrounded by flour-dusted tables, the smell of bread warm from the oven, and the tender laughter of her mother. But when her parents died, leaving debts unpaid, she was sold like livestock to Baron Victor Blackthorne. The Baron saw in her not a human being, but a grotesque novelty, a fat woman whose very size could be mocked and wagered upon. He dragged her into his underground games, where desperate men fought wolves, lions, or bears, all for the Baron's coin. Ophelia's role was to be a joke. "Look at her!" the Baron sneered that night, goblet lifted for all to hear. "She can barely stand without gasping for breath, and I give her a sword. Who bets she'll last 10 seconds? The crowd jeered, throwing coins, rotten fruit, even bones into the pit. Ophelia wanted to vanish. Every insult cut deeper than chains ever could. Her body, which once had given warmth and softness to her family's bakery, was now twisted into a curse, a weapon of humiliation. She thought of her father's hands guiding hers as she kneaded dough. "Your weight is your strength, Leah," he used to say, but here, among monsters cloaked in finery, her weight was mockery, not strength. The bear's roar rattled her bones, her knees buckled. She tried to lift the shield, but it slipped from her sweaty palms. Laughter erupted again, and then he appeared, Titan Beastmaster, the mountain man, the one whispered of in old tales. They called him the Lord of Beasts, a recluse who ruled Savage Peak, where no hunter dared trespass. He was said to command animals as brothers, to speak the language of claw and fang. When he landed in the arena, the torches seemed to bow before him. His silver hair streamed like a river of light, his muscles stretched against his tattered cloak, and his voice, when he spoke, silenced the crowd as surely as death itself. "You cage beasts for your sport," Titan roared, his eyes blazing up at Baron Victor. "But tonight I set them free." Ophelia stared at him, trembling. He had placed himself between her and the bear, his massive back a wall no claw could pierce. For the first time since her captivity, she felt something stir in her chest, not dread, but hope. And in that hope, she dared to whisper, barely audible, "Why would you save me?" Titan did not look at her, but his words struck like an oath. "Because you are no one's entertainment. You are human, and I will fight for you." The arena still smoldered behind them when Titan carried Ophelia out through the shattered gates. She had not walked on her own 2 feet. Her legs were too weak, her spirit too frayed. Yet in his arms she felt not like a prisoner hauled away, but like a woman borne toward freedom. The night air hit her face sharp and cold, a shock after the stinking heat of the Colosseum. Above, the stars stretched endless and wild, brighter than she had seen in years. She clutched at Titan's cloak as he strode into the trees, the forest swallowing them whole. "You should leave me," she whispered, ashamed of her weight pressing down on him. "I'll only slow you." Titan's reply was firm, quiet. "You weigh nothing compared to the burden you've carried. Let me bear it now." They traveled until dawn, Titan's steps unbroken by river or ridge. When at last he set her down to rest, he built a fire with swift hands, coaxing flame from damp wood. The glow painted his scars faint lines across chest and arms, souvenirs of battles waged against both men and beast. Ophelia sat close to the fire, shivering though the heat licked her skin. Hunger gnawed at her belly. She had been fed scraps in the barren cells, meant only to keep her alive enough to fight another day. Titan noticed the way her eyes lingered on the satchel he carried. Without a word, he drew out smoked venison, wrapped in leaves. He tore it into smaller pieces, passing them to her with a horn cup filled with clean water. "Eat slowly," he said. "Your body's been starved. It will learn to trust food again." The first bite nearly undid her. The meat was savory, rich, and warm with smoke. She chewed carefully, tears spilling as a flavor filled her mouth. "It's been so long since I tasted real food." Titan watched her, not with pity, but with quiet respect. "Every living thing deserves to be fed," he said. "Even a fox in winter has the right to hunt. But men made you starve. That is cruelty, not nature." Silence settled between them, broken only by the crackle of fire and the soft rush of wind through the pines. Ophelia wrapped her arms around herself. "Why did you come? You don't even know me." Titan looked into the flames. "I know the look of a caged animal, and I know when it deserves to be free. You are not their beast, Ophelia. You never were." Her name on his tongue startled her. It had been years since anyone had spoken it kindly. As dawn broke, Titan guided her onward. They crossed rivers where the water bit like ice, scaled ridges where the wind howled like wolves. Ophelia faltered often, but each time Titan offered his hand. Sometimes he lifted her across creeks as though she were weightless. At night, he built shelters from pine branches and warmed stones. He cooked stews from roots and wild game. She found herself laughing softly one evening when a curious fox crept near their fire. Titan crouched, whispering to the creature until it sat, bold as kin. "You truly speak to them?" she asked. "They understand more than men think," Titan replied. "They know kindness when they feel it. They know cruelty, too. That bear in the arena, he didn't want to fight you. He was only afraid." Ophelia thought of the bear's eyes before Titan calmed it. They had not been eyes of rage, but of desperation. For the first time, she realized she and the beast had been the same. Caged, forced, mocked. One night, wrapped in a cloak Titan had given her, she whispered as they lay near the fire, "What happens when we reach your mountain? What if your beasts don't want me there?" Titan turned, his voice steady. "Then they will learn, because you are under my protection, and no beast of claw or fang will harm you, not while I draw breath." The firelight flickered across his face, stern yet gentle. She believed him. For the first time in years, Ophelia closed her eyes and slept without fear. When they finally reached Savage Peak, the climb left Ophelia breathless. Yet the sight that awaited her stole what little air remained. A cabin hewn from timber, sturdy and sprawling, perched against the shoulder of the mountain. Smoke curled gently from its stone chimney. Animal tracks, bear, wolf, deer crisscrossed the snowy clearing, but none dared near the doorway. It was as though the beasts themselves had marked the place sacred. "This is your home?" she asked, awed. Titan nodded, pushing the heavy door wide. "It will be yours, too, if you wish it." Inside, warmth enveloped her. A great hearth dominated the room, fire dancing high. A long oak table bore scars of countless meals, and a loft above held shelves of dried herbs, pelts, and tools. The air smelled of pine resin and smoked meat. To Ophelia, it was paradise compared to the stone pits of the Baron's Colosseum. Still, when Titan offered her a chair by the fire, she hesitated. "I'll break it," she whispered. He crouched, leveling his gaze with hers. "You will not. And if you did, I would build another, stronger. No weight of yours is a burden here." Her throat tightened as she lowered herself into the chair. It creaked, but held. Heat from the fire wrapped her like an embrace. She shivered not from cold, but from the unfamiliar comfort. That night, Titan cooked a stew of venison and root vegetables. He ladled the first bowl, not for himself, but for her. "Eat," he said simply. She shook her head. "You should—" But he pushed the bowl gently into her hands. "You have eaten last for too long. Here, you eat first." She tasted the broth and closed her eyes as warmth spread through her chest. Tears slid silently down her cheeks. Days turned into weeks, and a rhythm formed. At dawn, Titan chopped wood while Ophelia swept the cabin, humming softly to herself. He taught her to split logs, her first attempts clumsy, but each swing steadier. "You see?" he encouraged, steadying her grip on the axe. "Strength comes not from size, but from trying again." In the evenings, they mended clothes, cooked meals, and sometimes simply sat in silence, listening to the wind batter the walls. Titan spoke little, yet his actions spoke louder than any words. He placed the warmest furs by her bedroll, carved a wooden cup just for her, and once, when she burned her hand at the hearth, he wrapped the wound with surprising tenderness. "You treat me as though I matter," she whispered one night. His eyes softened. "You do matter." Ophelia began to reclaim pieces of herself she thought lost. She laughed again, first shy, then loud and unrestrained when Titan muttered curses at a stubborn kettle lid. She sang old bakery songs while kneading dough from flour he bartered in town. She dared to look in the mirror of polished tin above the mantel, no longer seeing only the fat woman mocked in the arena, but a survivor, a woman rebuilding. Animals often visited the cabin. A wolf limped into the clearing, flank wounded by a hunter's arrow. Titan tended it carefully, pulling the shaft free while murmuring in that strange language of his. The wolf growled but stilled, then slunk away, healed. "You risk your life for beasts," Ophelia said. "They are no beasts," Titan corrected gently. "They are my kin, as are you now." His words settled deep in her chest. Kin. It had been so long since she belonged anywhere. One stormy night, thunder cracked overhead. Lightning struck a tree near the cabin, shaking the earth. Ophelia startled, trembling as memories of the arena clawed back the roar of crowds, the bear's snarl, the baron's cruel laughter. She pressed her hands over her ears, rocking. Titan was there instantly, kneeling before her. He pulled her hands away and guided her palm to his chest, steady against her cheek. "Listen," he murmured. "The storm is loud, but my heart is louder. As long as you hear it, you're safe." She clung to him, tears soaking his tunic. "I don't know how to be safe anymore." "You will learn," he vowed. "Here, you are not prey. You are not entertainment. You are Ophelia." For the first time, she let herself believe it. When the storm passed, dawn broke clear and golden. Titan opened the door to reveal the mountain bathed in light. He gestured to the view peaks stretching endless, valleys green even under frost. "This," he said softly, "is freedom, and it is yours." Ophelia stepped forward, the sun warming her face. The chains that once bound her seemed far away, broken in the dust of the Colosseum. And for the first time she whispered, not in despair, but in wonder, "I am free." The mountain offered peace, but peace seldom lasts when cruelty feels cheated. Word spread that Baron Victor's Colosseum had been destroyed, its noble patrons fleeing into the woods like rats. In Deadwood, whispers grew of a giant who commanded beasts, of a fat woman no sword could shame, of freedom stolen from the Baron's grasp. Victor's pride burned hotter than his losses. He sent riders to scour the forests, to sniff out the ruins of his empire. He wanted blood. Inside the cabin, Ophelia sensed the weight of it even before Titan spoke. He returned one evening from setting snares, face shadowed. "They search for you," he admitted. Her chest tightened. "For me?" "They call you property. They will not stop until they cage you again." His voice was steady, but his hands clenched the axe handle until the wood creaked. Ophelia lowered her gaze. "Maybe I should go back. If I surrender, they will leave you alone." Titan slammed the axe into the chopping block, the sound sharp as thunder. "Do not speak that again." She flinched at his sudden force, then stilled as his tone softened. "You are not their possession, Ophelia. Not now, not ever. I swore you would never be caged again." Yet even as he said it, something haunted his eyes. That night, unable to sleep, Ophelia watched him by firelight. He sat apart, polishing a hunting knife, gaze distant. Shadows played across his scarred face. "What happened to you?" she asked softly. He looked up, startled. "I see it," she continued, heart pounding, "in your eyes. Pain, as though you too were once chained." For a long while he was silent. Then his voice broke the hush. "I fought in wars when I was young. Men cheered as we slaughtered each other in arenas not unlike the Baron's. I learned to speak the language of beasts because men's tongues held nothing but lies. Ophelia's breath caught. You were one of them? A gladiator? He nodded, shame etched deep. They called me Titan because I was undefeated, but every victory was another chain. I killed not for survival, but for spectacle. I swore never again. That is why I live among the wild. Animals kill to eat, to live not for applause. She reached across the space, laying her hand on his scarred one. You are not that man anymore. His jaw tightened. But the Baron will paint me as monster and you as freak. He will twist the town against us. Her voice steadied. Then let them. I would rather die free beside you than live caged under his command. The fire popped, sparks flying as though sealing her vow. Days later, rumors became reality. Hunters appeared at the mountain's base, laying traps, spreading poisoned bait. Titan found one of his wolves writhing, foam at its mouth. He crushed the poisoned meat in his fist, fury shaking his frame. They poison what they cannot tame, he growled. They will not stop. Ophelia knelt beside the wolf, stroking its fur until the creature's last breath faded. Tears streaked her cheeks. They will kill everything you love. Titan's hand rested heavy on her shoulder. Not if we stand. But fear crept in. Not fear of the Baron, but fear of herself. Could she truly be more than the broken woman mocked as entertainment? Could she be partner, ally, warrior? That night, she dreamed of the arena, the bear's eyes, the crowd's laughter. She woke screaming. Titan was there, pulling her close, whispering, You are not there. You are here, with me. His words were a balm, but the dread lingered. She knew the Baron's shadow loomed closer each day, and deep inside, she knew one truth. The final chain had yet to be broken. The storm broke on a moonless night. Baron Victor came not with whispers or hunters, but with a small army. Torches lit the path up Savage Peak, flames licking the dark like a serpent's tongue. Horses snorted, sabers glinted, and at the center rode the Baron himself, draped in velvet, hatred hard in his eyes. "Bring me the woman," he roared, his voice carrying up the slope. "The fat sow is mine, and the beast man who stole her will hang." Ophelia stood at the cabin's doorway, trembling, but did not step back. Beside her, Titan loomed, a mountain carved of flesh and fury. "They've found us," she whispered. "They were always coming," Titan answered, gripping the haft of his axe. "But tonight they meet the end of their cruelty." The Baron's men fanned out, forming a half-circle around the clearing. Victor sneered when he saw her. "Ophelia Grimwald, you are property, not person. Come down, and I may spare your giant pet." Something inside her snapped. For years she had bowed her head, swallowed insults, accepted chains. Not tonight, not after everything Titan had given her. She stepped forward, voice shaking but loud enough to carry, "I am no one's property. I will never return to your cage." The Baron laughed. "Then you'll die in that beast's arms." He raised his hand. "Kill them both." The soldiers surged. Titan met them head on. He swung his axe in a broad arc, the blade cutting through steel and shield alike. His roar thundered louder than the clash of swords. Wolves emerged from the tree line, answering his call, tearing through the enemy ranks. Ophelia, though unarmed, did not cower. She seized a fallen spear, planted herself at Titan's side, and jabbed at any man who came close. Her arm shook, but her eyes blazed. For the first time, she was not prey, she was partner. Victor, enraged, dismounted and drew his rapier. "You think beasts will save you, Titan? You think a fat woman makes you strong?" Titan dropped the last soldier at his feet, then turned to face the Baron. "It is not beasts that save me, it is her." They clashed. Victor's blade was quick, darting like a serpent, but Titan's strikes were tidal waves. Steel screeched against steel until Titan caught the rapier mid-swing and crushed it in his fist. With his free hand, he seized Victor by the throat and lifted him high. "This ends tonight." Ophelia stepped forward, her voice firm. "Do not kill him. Let him see what freedom looks like. Let him know he cannot cage us again." Titan hesitated, then flung the Baron to the ground. Victor scrambled away, broken not by blade but by defeat he could never undo. The mountain fell silent, save for the crackle of torches dying in the snow. Titan turned to Ophelia, chest heaving. She dropped the spear and fell into his arms. He kissed her forehead and whispered, "You are free forever." The snow began to fall before dawn, blanketing Savage Peak in silence. The torches were gone, the soldiers fled, and Baron Victor's shadow had vanished into the night. For the first time in months, the mountain was still. Inside the cabin, a single fire burned. Its glow painted the rough-hewn walls gold, softening every scar, every wound of the battle past. Titan sat by the hearth, his giant frame hunched, hands still stained with soot and blood. Beside him, wrapped in a blanket, Ophelia sipped warm broth from a wooden bowl. She looked at him quietly, her heart full yet fragile. "It's over?" she asked. "For now," Titan answered. His voice was low, almost a growl, yet it held gentleness. "But men like Victor do not vanish. Others may come." Ophelia set the bowl aside. She leaned closer, resting her head against his chest. The rhythm of his heartbeat steadied her more than any promise of safety. "Then let them come," she whispered. "I am not afraid any more, not as long as I have you." Titan wrapped his arm around her, pulling her close. For a long moment, neither spoke. The only sound was the crackling fire, the sigh of snow against the window. He pressed his lips to her hair. "You're safe here. This is your home now, if you'll have it." Her tears came softly, not from pain, but from a joy she had never thought possible. She nodded against him, clutching his hand as if to anchor herself to this new life. Outside, the storm raged on, but inside the cabin there was warmth, light, and love. Yet as the firelight flickered, one question lingered: would their love be strong enough to withstand the world that waited beyond the mountain? Every time I read your comments, I'm reminded that stories are more than words. They are bridges across distance, language, and heart. Ophelia's fight for dignity and Titan's vow to protect her speak to something we all long for, to be loved for who we truly are. Wherever you are in the world, I'd love to know what part of this story touched you most. Leave a comment and share your voice. And if you still believe in love that defies chains, cruelty, and fear, don't leave just yet. The next story is waiting, written just for you.